Welcome back. Today, I thought we'd actually go over the sort of devices in Array Calc. Like I stated in the previous video, I wanted to go into more detail about it, so then I can explain it properly, how it works, the layout, and sort of the improvements that were kind of made. That's actually reason now it's a lot better than it's kind of ever really been. So this is a project I've kind of been working on. It was basically designed in SketchUp, and then I imported it using D&B's little software. It has quite a few speakers, to be fair. It's a distributed system with a main sort of larger front of house, and then all the delays are a lot like smaller, little 5-inch speakers. They're the 5S's, and then the main speakers are 12S's. Designed with the main stage, and then a slight fold back system for the kind of choir that actually sits in the back section. And then this area is the stage. And then they also got a balcony that goes either side, with this side where the organ sits. The top 5S's are not in the correct place. They are for a potential phase 2, where they're potentially looking at getting building works done to separate the top areas off into smaller rooms, more study areas, but that's long term. So it was put there as like extra as a future plan ahead for the wider system for amplifiers and control. I will do a quick calculation. So as you can see, the green areas are pretty much where they do a lot of speaking and talking, and the wireless microphone usually sits. And then you got the choir behind. So they'll get a little bit of foldback. To be fair, that'll probably end up getting shaded down, so it's not as loud for the choir members. And then there is there's coverage under the balconies, where there's also pews and a welcome cafe to one side. And then the only other area, the other side where it's green, is sort of a children's kind of play area during service, where they basically the children are just to play. So then less noise there so they can talk a little bit without actually getting blasted in the face from the choir and the actual performance. So going on to the actual devices. So it's completely changed in layout. I know this is a little messy because I just actually designed this whole setup before this update that came in. So I was more attuned to kind of like this, but a lot more expanded, like it was if you go back to the previous video. So actually, this is a perfect example. This layout, where you basically you went along and you basically told it what you wanted to go where. And then you can actually tell which way the signal flow is going. So for the main amplifier that covers both the 12S's and the left and right sub, they are separate. They're not linked together just because of location. They're either side of the main walkway, and bringing a cable from one to the other is a bit of an annoyance. So you actually go straight from the amplifier on the other channel to keep them separate, even though it'll be just a singular mono input to both the subs. For the rest of the speakers, the little 5S's, they're actually the 5Ds, which I actually showed in the previous video. They're little half size amplifiers, so you can fit 2 amplifiers per one single U, which is absolutely fantastic. So they're real high density amplifiers, very small. Dante, both primary and secondary inputs. They are only the only install variants. That's the only thing to bear in mind. So if you ever decide to install them, they use kind of the Phoenix or Euroblock connectors, and then you just need to hand wire them. So this is the main sort of change where things like the inputs design's different. And it's really quite nice because you can see the signal path a lot clearer. This 5D is like the extra one just because of how the speakers are linked together. So there's an extra, only a singular channel, because these are actually, believe it or not, these are 4-channel amplifiers, even though they're half a U, which is really quite cool. And that's because they've got 2 linked together. They're very, very limited of what they can power, but they are great for when situations where you have got a distributed smaller system where you only need tiny, like 4-inch or 5-inch speakers, and you're just distributing around, whether it's a restaurant, church, office, whatever it may be. These are fantastic. And as you can see, I'll show you the 40D, because they're a little different, of course, layout for the amplifier because of the inputs. The 40D is the install variant of the D40. And for this, because this is using... I'm trying to remember now if I actually designed for this to have a network bridge or not. I can't remember. Either way, I think I didn't in the end. I think I designed it to be analog in. So that's why it's using 3 different analog inputs. The first 2 being left and right, and then the third one being a sub input. And that'll be 3 buses coming off the sound desk. As this project was designed to have an actual proper sound desk with the left, right, and a mono send to keep it sort of easy and distributed, and the sub level can then be controlled a lot better. On the 5Ds, they are pretty much just a single distributed system for delays and just to fill in the extra areas. So they are pretty much all singular input mono system just to fill in the gaps, mainly for like vocal, just for voice, as majority of like congregations are getting older or older audiences, so you want that speech intelligibility to be fairly up there. So each one, of course, is a little different, and depending on how the speaker's set up, most of them are in 2s, and they're literally next to each other, doing making a wider coverage between the... I'll go back to the 3D plot. They're going between... Come on, mouse. Going between the actual main area, and then the other one sits the other side of the pillar to cover the sort of area where the main system would end up being blocked by the pillar. So it's more just coverage and speech intelligibility of it all, with a distributed even level across the board. Okay, so let's actually go into the sort of devices themselves. Oh, I forget that the scroll was backwards on for this. So you can actually tell it where you kind of want it to go, and you can link them, which is really kind of fantastic. So if you wanted to change what input, whether it's analog, digital, and then you can change what input's going where depending on your needs. So like for this one, I could go, oh, actually, I've got a spare channel here. They want to add this speaker. And then I can go, so these are the Dante inputs. So then I can go, okay, I can add an extra Dante input, put it off to B, and then I could then set that as an extra, go to whatever speakers. I can add an extra speaker onto the sources, and then go, oh, I want to use that channel from that amplifier to link to that speaker. Or if I wanted to go, actually, that speaker here, for whatever reason, if I didn't want it linked to this one anymore, link through, I can go, actually, I'm going to delete that one, for instance, and then I will shift it onto, come on, It should stop zooming out on me. Then I can just link it from there to there instead. And then that input is taking, input 4 is going to B channel on the amplifier, which is then going to that secondary 5S covering set 3 on the left hand side if you're looking for front of house. So then I'd know, looking at this, where everything's supposed to be plugged in and where every cable is supposed to go. Of course, I'm going to probably undo that. But yeah, that's basically how it all works. What I'll do is I'll add a network device just to show you that. You've got the DN1. The DN1 is an 11-port Ethernet hardware switch that supports Milan/AVB, as well as Dante, AES67, AES70, and OCA, and kind of standard IP traffic. Absolutely fantastic. They're just a tiny little network switch, but specifically designed from D&B. You've then got the DS10 and the DS20 network bridges. The DS10 is the Dante in to digital AES out, so it's in digital AES, like 2-channel, and then that can be linked through directly into an amplifier. It's also got AES input as well if you needed to, but the majority of this is Dante in. So you got 1 to 16, got those inputs, and then you've also got 3 or 4 inputs as well. So they pretty much will come from your actual inputs from your desk or your music source or mixer preamp. So if I wanted to take output 1 and 2, I'll have to kind of scroll out and scroll down. That'll be going to the D40 as it takes the AES inputs and outputs. So there'll be the AES output of the network bridge and the kind of AES digital input of the 40D. Oh, come on, scroll in. So then you get that set up. So I can basically, if I drop that, it shows there the output 1 and 2 is going from output 1 and 2 across into digital input 1 and 2, which then I can actually assign to whatever input I wanted. So instead of it coming from the analog input, I would then switch it over to 1 and 2 being A and B, and then I would then switch. I could have 3 and 4 as basically the 3 and 4 of the subs, but I would, instead of having 3 and 4 separate, it'll be 3 and then split into 2. So then it'll be a mono send rather than a separate send. But that's kind of basically how it works. You've also got the DS100 and DS100M, which I'll just shove in here, which is really quite cool. The DS100 is basically the matrix engine for Soundscape, which basically takes so for their small size, you can have 64 inputs and 24 outputs. The large is 64 inputs, 64 outputs, and then their extra large is 128 inputs and 64 outputs. And then, of course, you got all the other bits and pieces with Soundscape, and I will do a video on Soundscape at some point. So, in conclusion, you can basically route your inputs through your amplifier, depending on the amplifier, and then you can see the chain going from all to your speakers, and then if you've linked the speakers, you can see the linked speakers. Appreciate you watching. If you got any questions, just drop them in the comments. I'll answer best as I can. If there's anything I don't know, then what I will do is I'll reach out to D&B themselves, and then I will reply with probably with their answer as soon as I can. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.